Hey guys, it's Co-Creation, and this week we are doing an art challenge. Now, this is gonna be a challenge for me because we're doing one brush, one layer from start to finish. Now, I let myself have a little bit of courtesy. I let myself use the undo tool a couple of times, and I used the eraser like once or twice, maybe three times. But I tried my best to stick to the heart of the challenge, which is basically doing it as if it was a painting style. I used a resize, I'm sorry, I had to. The head was too big. But I wanted to keep it mostly as like almost like a painting challenge, and I don't paint. Even when I do traditional art, I don't paint because I do not have the patience or the skill for it, if I'm being quite honest, and we'll get to that later because I don't know what I'm doing for some of this. But I started this out by just trying to plot out the basic sketch that I wanted. I had an idea for this old character that I had tucked away, and it didn't really even end up looking that much like her because I couldn't figure out how to get like the little details in there. But I'm not mad at how this turned out. From a distance, this ends up looking pretty good to me. When I zoom in, not so much, but isn't that what they say about like the old paintings and stuff? Like, good from afar, far from good, something like that. That's the feeling that I get when I look at the finished product of this. And, let me know what you think when we get to that. But I basically I went through with a larger version of the brush, sketched out my basic proportions and everything, then went in, changed the color of the brush, which didn't really seem to do a lot, I'm sure, but it does do a little bit. Because basically this brush, the way that it works is it kind of like blends with itself a little bit, which is why I chose this brush specifically. Now, this is the brush that I normally use for my line work and that I use for detailing and things like that. I normally use a different, more textured brush for sketching because it feels more like sketching on paper to me, which is what I grew up doing, so it's more comfortable. But this is the brush that I use for my line art and that I use for everything else. So I wanted to use this one, and I... you can see that I start blending things here, and I'm kind of trying to use that sketch to help with color variation as well as adjusting colors as needed. And it's an experience, let's call it that, because again, painting, not really for me. But I did my best, and I did my best. So I went through and I wanted to just like, I know this isn't how I normally draw. I'm very aware this isn't how I normally draw. That's kind of the point of a challenge, I think. But I still have my old habits, like going through and doing like one section at a time. So I could do all the skin at once, and then I do all the hair, and then I do the clothes and things like that. Like, that's just how I'm used to creating. So I guess I was trying to do that again here. And I don't know if that worked for or against me, but it's a learning process, and this is something that I will very likely try again in the future because it's something that I think could be really interesting. I really do believe that when you do stuff to push yourself, then you learn from it and you can grow from it and you can take things away to use in your regular art. And honestly, I'm not really sure what I'm taking away from this one, but that's part of reflection and things like that. And yeah, I guess I can take a little bit of like the blending and the shading away from it that I don't typically do in my normal art. Normally when I do shading, I choose a shading color, put that around, and then blur and blend it a little bit. But there's a lot more blending in this, so maybe I can take some of that in the future, and we'll see if that works into my regular art. It's not going to be an immediate change, obviously, because habits and all that, but overall it was a good experience. And if you are a digital artist, and you haven't done something like this before, you know, maybe try it. It's interesting at the very least. I had a lot of trouble when I was shading of like picking up the colors around it because again, all one layer. And if you've ever seen my videos or my art, my workspace, normally my layers look like this. And yeah, using one, it was this was an art challenge. It was a real challenge, but I worked through it. I am surprised the hands actually end up looking like hands at the end of this. I wasn't really expecting that because hands are hard enough to draw when you're actually drawing them, let alone when you're kind of painting them like this. So don't ask me how I did it. I don't know. I just kept going and trying real hard, and we got something that slightly resembles a hand shape, I guess. One of the things I noticed about this challenge was because of the brush, maybe it is just because of the brush I was using, but color control was a lot harder than I was expecting it to be. Like, I would have, in my normal art, I probably would have made the gloves, the shirt, and the pants all the same color, and they're not. Like, they're close, but they're not. And I guess part of that was probably the blurring of the sketch underneath, but I don't really mind that they came out different. I think that kind of added a little bit of extra to it. So yeah, I'm happy enough with that. I kind of like that the background isn't one solid color, like you can see brush strokes in it, and that to me gave it a really painterly feel. So I'm not mad at that. I kind of actually like that. And then yeah, I went back in at this point, added in some hair textures and strands and things like that because I wanted it to look more like hair, I guess. And like at this point I remembered that I was going to add in some glowing flames and I couldn't really figure out how to do glowing, so you can watch me struggle with that for a little bit. I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't think it's bad. If that, like, I don't think it's bad. I'm not really happy with the facial proportions, but again, I was trying not to adjust things too much. At this point, I really wanted the eyes to be glowing, but again, couldn't really figure out how to paint glowing without using effects, and since I was only using one layer, I couldn't really use effects. But this is what we ended up with. This is the final product, so if you like the video, please put a like on it. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. We recently hit 200 plus subscribers, which I was so happy about. Thank you all so much for that. And I will see you guys next week with another video. Bye!